Hi, everyone. My name is Anne-Marie Baines, and I'm the founder and executive director of a nonprofit in the Bay Area called The Practice Space, which helps with public speaking education. And I'll be your tournament director for the Berman Speech Invitational. First of all, thank you so much for judging. We couldn't do this without you, and we really appreciate your service, especially during a pandemic. So we were really excited if you are someone who's judged a lot before, but also for those who are new, we'll hopefully make this a really great experience for you. So throughout this presentation, I'll go over the different slides, which you also have a copy of, that go through the different events in speech in case you don't know what those are, and then also going through the technology logistics involved in a virtual tournament. So without further ado, I'm going to just share some slides. Again, these are the ones you have at your fingertips. So I am going to, here we go. All right, so at this tournament, you'll hear a term called patterns, and that's just a fancy way of listing the different events in the schedule. It's less important for you as a judge, but just in case you see that, I just want you to know what that is. It's the different clusters of events that happen during the day. But in general, whenever you have a question, there's a little contact box here that's more important on this slide, just in case you have a question during the meeting times, and also you can ask your student's coach. So throughout this tournament, we have a schedule here, and at 8:30 in the morning, we have a set of judge instructions that begins in a separate judge lounge Zoom. This is the only time you'll use Zoom throughout. The rest of the tournament takes place on something called Tab Room, specifically NSDA campus, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But it will take place in the Zoom, and if you're in the afternoon only, don't worry about attending that. This video should be enough for you, and send any questions that you have in advance if that's the case. So there's a morning shift that involves some pattern A rounds at the following times there, and pattern C round 1 at 10:20. Those times are more important for the students, but just as reference, you can kind of see roughly when the rounds will begin and when you might see whether you have to judge. And we hope that we run on time. At lunchtime, we'll have a guest speaker in the judge lounge at 11:30. This is a really wonderful storyteller, an expert public speaker who will give some inspirational remarks to the students, and you're welcome to attend as well. In the afternoon, we have pattern B rounds at the following times, and then the remaining pattern C rounds. And again, this is more for your reference in case you don't get a ballot and you're not judging one round and you're wondering, oh, when's the next one? These times will be roughly correct, hopefully. And at 4 p.m., we'll have an award ceremony in the judge lounge. And of course, we'll move things along as soon as we can. All right, so what are the events? If you've judged before and you know all of these events, you might want to skip ahead a little bit in the video to just watch the technology part to make sure you get those logistics. But let's jump into the events. At a speech and debate tournament, there's lots of different choices for students. The reason there's so many different events is so that students have different ways to express themselves. And they can do original things, they can do acting, they can do poetry in this case, they can do debate. There's just something for everyone. So these next set of slides just really describe the sometimes complicated rules that are involved in each of the different events. And if you don't worry about memorizing all of these. When you get a ballot, just go back to these slides and just review what was the event again, and just a few suggestions for how to judge those. All right, so a frequently asked question is that, am I the only judge in the room? Yes. There are no other judges, it's just you for this entire tournament. And each round usually has between 3 and 6 student competitors, depending on the size of the event. We ask judges to have their videos on at all times. It's how the students know who they're talking to, and that can be really helpful. And just making sure that you also remain professional with the students as well, because they are minors. All right, so the events that we have 9 different events at this tournament. So the conventional events, we know those as events that are offered during the entire year at different tournaments. And unconventional events are ones that we created for this tournament to encourage more new people to attend and get some middle schoolers involved, some novices, and also we really love poetry, so we wanted to add that to this tournament. And then finally, there's a mini form of debate called SPAR. So I'll go over each of these. And again, skip ahead if you've done this before, but this is just for your reference. So one thing that everybody always asks is, are there rubrics? There are no rubrics, only suggested criteria. So some of this might feel a little subjective to you, in which case just trust yourself. But we do ask that you set aside your biases and really judge the content and the delivery of the performance, not whether you agree with them, and also definitely not on the quality of their webcam or their virtual environment. So dramatic interp and humorous interp are both acting events. They're both 10 minutes in length, and they're based off of published work. So that's something like a play that they're acting out in 10 minutes, maybe a monologue, maybe a movie, any of those things. So you're judging it kind of how you would base your decision on the Oscars. So things like characters, theme, plot, whether you enjoyed it is important too, and whether it connected to you, anything around the theme as well. For oratorical interp, that is a 10-minute performance of a speech by a famous speaker. That can be a TED Talk, a classic speech, something that's offered at Congress, anything like that. So you're usually judging based on the message or the polish of the overall performance. All right, so over to the next few conventional events. So original oratory is a great event because it's an original persuasive speech by the student on trying to convince you that something is a problem in society. So when you're judging, it's not about whether you agree with them or not, it's about the clarity of their argument, the significance of the message, and whether they persuaded you. And even if they didn't persuade you, did you see those elements of persuasion there? Impromptu is a fun event to judge because it is spontaneous. So the students come in and you give them 3 topics. Every student gets a set of 3 options, and they choose one and they get 2 minutes to prepare a 5-minute speech. Sometimes it's a set of 3 random words. Other times it might be quotes or tweets, anything. So when you're judging, think about organization, clarity, and whether it engaged you. Organization is a big one in impromptu. Extemp is an event about current events. And so that each student will get 3 different current event topics, and then they get 30 minutes to prepare before you see them. So they get 30 minutes, and then they come to you and you watch a 7-minute speech on a topic of current events where a student is saying their stance on an issue. So you might judge based on evidence, support, clarity, organization, whether they persuaded you. This is the only event where students will come in one at a time. So you won't see a whole group, you'll just see one student at a time throughout the round. All right, over to the unconventional events. So this is only this tournament. So issue speeches are a 5-minute original speech on the prompt, I want to teach the world. And so the students can come up with any way that they want to answer that prompt. They don't have to start off with that prompt, but that's the guiding topic. So when you're judging, think about their writing, think about their points, and also think about, like, did it engage you? Did it connect with you? With Poetry Slam, poems are a lot shorter, so this might be even less than 3 minutes, but it's an original poem by the student. And so with poetry, it might be something like the writing, the overall performance, and again, did it engage you? Was it memorable? You're trying to set aside biases, though, at all times. Finally, we have a debate event. SPAR is a mini debate. So if you're an experienced debate judge, this is going to feel very short to you, but that's okay. The students get an affirmative side or pro, and a negative side or con, and then they get a topic. The timing for each total debate is 15 minutes, and the timing is divided here. They get 5 minutes of preparation time, and then they follow the order here. An important thing to note in SPAR is that the entire audience, including you as the judge, can participate in cross-examination, which are questions to the speaker that just spoke. So here on this first set, you would be asking questions to the affirmative speaker. Keep it respectful, but that's a really exciting time in SPAR. A few other things on SPAR. This is a very dense slide, but it's meant for you to be able to read it separately, not necessarily on this video, if you end up judging a SPAR round. So every SPAR round has 4 people in it, and everyone should stay there the whole time, except that there are a few students who are double entered, and they'll tell you. And if that's the case, they may need to leave a little early to make it to their next round. Students are not required to have their videos on in this event. This is an equity issue, and also students are just saying their arguments. And so we have allowed students not to be required to have their videos on, although if they want to, they can. So there's a few steps here. When you are judging, you will see 2 topics at the top of your ballot, and you'll see a list of 4 speakers. So the first thing is to select the first 2 speakers, and you tell them whether they're the affirmative side or the negative side. You can decide. That's not going to be on there. So you just decide, okay, you're going to be affirmative or pro, and you're going to be negative or con. Then you give them the first topic that's listed at the top of your ballot, and time 5 minutes of preparation, and both students are preparing at the same time. When they're done, you're going to listen to the debate. And when they're finished, don't say who won. This is very important. Don't give any comments. Don't say who won. Just be friendly, say thank you, and move on to the next one. Those speakers who just went should stay in the room so that they can participate in that cross-examination, unless they're double entered. Then you repeat with a second topic for the next 2 speakers, and it's going to be a different one. And then you repeat that, and at the end, you thank the debaters and you let them go. After that, you go into your ballot and you rank all 4 debaters and submit your ballot and enter comments later. This is important. If you're an experienced debate judge, this is not about who won and lost. You're just ranking them based on who was the most persuasive debater in the round. So you might actually, the first 2 debaters might be the stronger ones compared to the next 2, in which case you give them a 1 and a 2. Or maybe you really liked 1 of each. So then you go 1, 2, and then 3 and 4. So you're ranking all 4 of the debaters across the 2 debates. And we are going to now go on to a few other procedures. So the procedures for the prepared events are much simpler than SPAR. You're going to log into your room. I'll explain later, there'll be a little video camera for you to enter your room, welcome them. Students really are nervous, and so the more friendly you can be, the better. And everyone's going to watch everyone else. Don't wait for everyone to arrive to start the round. You should just begin, because some are coming from other rounds and maybe double or triple entered in other events, so you don't want to wait. Announce which competitors will speak. It's in an order of your ballot. And there's a little script here in case you need that. Make sure everyone has muted their mics, otherwise it can be a little disruptive. And then thank them, and then go on to the next. So that's a lot simpler. The next one is for impromptu and extemp. Same thing, welcoming the students, but in extemp, again, they're going to arrive 1 at a time, and in impromptu, they will be there to watch. In impromptu, you give the speaker the 3 topics listed on your ballot for that speaker. So you might say, after that, we will now start your preparation time for 2 minutes, and you time them, give them a little warning when the time is almost up, and then you hear their 5-minute speech. And you go on to the next speaker. You give them 3 words. They're all listed at the top of your ballot. You're not making up any of these topics yourself. You're just going off of what's on your ballot. Extemp, and I know this feels like a lot of events, but again, only pay attention to the ones you are assigned, and you'll find that out at the tournament. When the students arrive, they will have already finished their preparation. And so just double check their name, ask them which topic they chose, and then they begin their speech. Equity is important, very important in any kind of competition, tournament, and the world. And as I mentioned before, when you are judging, some of it might feel subjective. However, you're going to consider both the content and the delivery. And students are supporting their thinking, but it might be different from your thinking. So you should just make sure that you're judging the quality of the performance of the speech itself, not on whether you agree with the student or like the student or their appearance or anything like that. And of course, never take the virtual environment into consideration, because not everyone has the resources to have a perfect environment. Technology. All right, so technology is tricky, obviously, in the virtual world, but it'll be okay, and we'll support you along the way. So when you go to tabroom.com, all of you have this up. It should be up on the entire tournament. The way you access your ballot is you click on the top right-hand corner with the little email address, and you should see a little row called current ballots, and it'll have what your round is and then the entries in your room. But the most important button is the start round button. And that will be a button you press immediately to start round so that we know that you started. All right. So beyond that, you have all told me whether or not you have any conflicts or not. Make sure that you stick with the schedule that you've told us previously. And if you're judging the entire day, you may not be assigned a round every round, but you will get multiple rounds to judge. So we need to make sure that you're there. Otherwise, your school can be fined, and it really causes a lot of difficulty in the tournament. Excellent. So how do you get to your round? So there's a little blue video icon I mentioned earlier, and that is only available if you're logged into Tab Room. All events are live. It'll take you into what seems like a little Zoom room. It feels like that, but it's not Zoom. And yeah, and then everything is provided for you there as part of the online ballot. This is a big slide. Read it in more detail so I don't walk through every single sentence on here, but basically, again, reiterating what you do in a round, you call roll. Please wait 25 minutes before leaving a room because some students might be coming from other rooms and we want them to still be able to compete. So don't mark students down if they're late. There's lots of things happening at this tournament. You're listening to the speeches in the order listed on your ballot. And never interrupt a student's presentation unless there's some technology issues, in which case we have a few suggestions in a little bit. So make your final decision about the ranks first. So rank them. 1 is always the best, and then it goes until sometimes student 6, I think, is the biggest room in this tournament. And then you immediately submit. Don't tell the students what your comments are. Don't tell the students the results. Don't say how you ranked them. Just thank them, let them go, and then you do the ranks separately. When you've submitted, you can then offer written comments on the ballot, and everyone will be able to see that feedback. We recommend doing that during the round or immediately after. If it takes you a little bit longer, it might be hard to remember the speech if you wait too long, and so you might do it during your next break. All right, so in SPAR, again, students don't have to have their video on, so just remember that. So please return to the judge lounge if you know a student that you're judging or you've already judged that event. We're going to try and make sure that you are able to be a fair and impartial judge, so make sure to do that throughout. And so if you feel like you can't be fair for some reason, please come back to the judge lounge and we'll reassign you. We try not to make that happen. And then there's the reminder of the timing here in case that's helpful. There's a little grace period in case they go a little bit over time, that's okay. And sometimes there's some technology issues. And so if someone unexpectedly drops out of the round, just give them enough time, about 30 minutes from the start time to return, because sometimes they need to reboot their router. Who knows what's happening in this pandemic world? Just make sure that you wait. And it can be really helpful to remember the student. Oh, yes. So when there's audio or visual issues like a lagging or muted speaker, just give them a little, try to wave and try to stop the speaker. Mentally note for yourself where they were cut off, because then when the student comes back on, they don't know where they got cut off, so you can tell them. Making a mental note can be helpful for the student, and make sure you pause your timer. Really important safety concern, please do not go to any alternate video conferencing site that's not part of this tournament. Don't do that, you'll be immediately disqualified. The ranks look like this. So as you're getting ready, you can kind of see what that looks like. Students will have an order that's there. You'll see the names, there might be a title or a question. And then it looks like the submit ballot, you submit it immediately once you put in the ranks, and then you confirm your results. First is the best, no ties, and then you go all the way to last place. Timing wise, it's useful to have a phone or a watch or a timer with you. And even if they go overtime, don't stop them, just let them finish their performance. For extemp and impromptu, sometimes the students don't know how much is left. So there's some guidance here on how to show how much time is remaining, 30 seconds remaining, you know, the countdown from 10 when they've reached their time limit, for example. The comments look like this. So there's a little drop down. So these are comments that can go to everyone. And then if you click the drop down, you can offer individual comments that only individual students see. In the general one, for everyone, I usually write like how I ranked the round. I don't say like necessarily the exact rank because that takes a while to write, but I might say something like, I ended up going off of whose writing was the clearest. And more individual comments are available in the individual comments. And then you can give some comments after that. For comments, I like to do personally 2 positive pieces of feedback that are really specific. Students really hate it when you just say good job. So 2 really specific pieces of positive feedback, and then 1 piece of more constructive feedback that tells them what they should do differently moving forward. They're not going to see these comments though until after this tournament is over, but it can help them with future competitions. So 2 positive comments and then 1 helpful piece of feedback. Again, like take a stance on your personal opinion, but also just offer some of those details so that they understand where you're coming from. You can always edit feedback. Again, you'll be able to see this under current ballots and panels. The instructions are here on this slide in case you need to do that. Don't give any oral comments. You're not doing that. I know it makes you feel like you can be helpful by doing that, but we're not going to be doing that. You're going to be writing all of your feedback. So no oral critiques. There's a few do's and don'ts here. The main gist of all of it is make sure you click start round and also submit your decision before completing any comments. It can be helpful also to do a tech check. Just make sure your camera is working correctly and keep your camera on. Please go to your room immediately when you see that you received a ballot. Don't wait. And just be patient. This technology world is really weird. So just be patient and do your best. If you're having issues, there's some helpful resources here. You can always come back to the judge lounge if you're having some issues. Also, there's a tech option to submit a tech help ticket on the right side of your screen. And you can always contact us, the tab room, in that way. Thank you so much for your service. It's so helpful to have you here. We absolutely couldn't do this without you. So thank you and good luck. Good luck. It's going to be fun and the students really need you. So offer as much helpful feedback as you can. Thank you and enjoy Saturday. All right.